VocalEye Almost Live Zoom, Dangerous Touch, hosted by Amy Amantea, with special guest Kim Kilpatrick.
Welcome to this VocalEye Almost Live event. My name is Amy Amantea. I use she, her pronouns. I'm the Associate Director for VocalEye. I'm your host for these Almost Live events, and I'm a proud member of the blind community. Such lovely people in this community. And to think that I wouldn't know any of you had I not gone through a life experience. So I'm so blessed to know you all. I just want to extend a big thank you to many of you who continue to support our work by either making donations or writing fantastic support letters and testimonial letters. Keep those coming. We absolutely love them. I get so much joy out of reading them. Calling in Anthony because, well, Tony, Tony sends a whole bunch of them all the time, and we just enjoy reading them so much. Pierre sent one the other day. Everybody is sending little nuggets, and we're loving those. So thank you so much. If you want to make a financial contribution, there are ways of doing that. There's a link that's in the chat. You can also go through our website. If you happen to be watching this particular event on our YouTube channel, please hover over to that like and subscribe buttons and just poke them. We want you to do that. I want to offer this evening's land acknowledgement on behalf of Ingrid, who was creating our land acknowledgements. But I want to acknowledge that VocalEye is broadcasting to you all from the traditional and stolen lands of the Squamish, the Musqueam, and the Tsleil-Waututh First Peoples. Acknowledging Indigenous peoples and their ancestral territories is an important part of addressing the historic wrongs that have been done to Indigenous peoples here in North America, and is part of the Truth and Reconciliation process developed by the Canadian Truth and Reconciliation Commission of 2008. This committee investigated and documented the atrocities that were perpetuated against Indigenous peoples in the colonization of North America, in particular residential schools. The commission made recommendations to prevent such atrocities from happening again. These recommendations take the form of 94 calls to action. And in previous episodes of Almost Live, we have shared with you the first 45 calls to action. This is call to action number 45, and it's directed at the Crown. It asks that the Government of Canada to jointly develop with Indigenous peoples a royal proclamation of reconciliation to be issued by the Crown. So the Crown is Prince Charles. This would build on historic treaties of 1763 and 1764 and reaffirm the nation-to-nation relationship between Indigenous peoples and the Crown. The proclamation would include, but not be limited to, the following commitments. So, to repudiate the doctrine of discovery, which was the principle used by European colonizers in order to stake claim on lands beyond the European continent, and stated by okay. So this doctrine was stated by the Pope in 1763. The doctrine gave the rights to claim land considered terra nullius, which meant vacant lands, if it had not yet been occupied by Christians. Second, the Crown, King Charles, is to also adopt and implement the United Nations Declaration of the Rights of Indigenous Peoples as the framework for reconciliation. Like the Canadian government has adopted this for their provinces and for other municipalities within Canada. The Crown will review or establish treaty relationships based on mutual recognition, mutual respect, and shared responsibility for maintaining those relationships. And the proclamation will reconcile constitutional and legal orders to ensure that Indigenous peoples are full partners in Confederation. Now, what's left to happen is that it's up to the federal government and the King of England, King Charles, to create this proclamation. So that's the ask of the commission, and it hasn't been achieved yet. So it's still in limbo. So there you go. Call to action number 45 from the Truth and Reconciliation documents. Welcome to Wednesday, November the 2nd, 2022. Today, friends, we are proud to offer you our Almost Live event. Can anybody guess? 100. Okay, that's enough karaoke for me. But this is our 100 event. 100. Dangerous Touch by our good friend Kim Kilpatrick, who is joining us. I think I heard a little Kim giggle in the corner. So Kim,
Absolutely.
come on in, my friend.
Hello.
So happy to have you here.
Happy to be here as usual.
We gotcha. It's so exciting for me to be celebrating 100 with a community member in the space, a fantastic storyteller and performer. How the heck are ya? It's been a while since we've seen
I'm
ya.
really good, and congratulations to you and VocalEye on 100 zooming performances. That's amazing how you would bring people from the country and across the world together to hear great performances. So it's wonderful to be here. Yeah, I'm doing good.
Good. I'm so glad to hear it, especially since you're joining in the future, as are others joining in the future from Ottawa. So it's past your bedtime.
Yeah, that's right. But I won't fall asleep. I'll try not
Oh,
to.
well, we certainly appreciate that. So, Dangerous Touch, Kim. Where did this? I mean, I know the answer to this already, but where did this concept come from for storytelling?
Well, early on in COVID, somebody asked me, and I think you and I talked about this at one point,
Yes.
whether we were creating and whether you could create, because you'd read things and hear things. I'm writing a book and I'm doing it, and I would sit there and not really be able to create anything. I felt just empty of creativity, which is not usual for me. And I think it was kind of being hit by all the inundation of things with COVID. And
Mm-hmm.
then about 2 or 3 months in, I really started to. But even when I wasn't creative, I sort of kept a journal. And fairly early on, I was commissioned by Ottawa Storytellers for a show, which was supposed to be in 2021 because we all thought COVID would be long gone. And
Yes.
yes. Oh, I said, absolutely, I'm going to do that 2021. Yeah. It got canceled 2021. Can you do it 2022? Oh, yes. Okay. And so that was how it kind of started. And it just kept, I mean, I was creating the show and things kept happening. So I was creating the show and I'm okay, I think the show's almost done. And then I did get my dog. So like then it sort of changed. Then I created more. Then we had the truckers. So I was like, do I put in the truckers? Well, I sort of had to put in the truckers. And then I won't tell you some of the other stuff that happened, but it was like, don't give me any more. Like I'm creating this and it's moving. It's a moving
Mm-hmm.
target.
Mm-hmm.
And then I started to get really worried that people would hate it because who wants to live through this again? Like who wants to live through this again? Why am I doing this? But so I was really stressed about it last winter and spring, and as we were approaching the premiere in early June, and but it went well, and people did respond to it. So it was a very interesting and stressful thing to do, but I think it's a necessary thing that our voices are heard about
Yes.
our thoughts and experiences in that time. I thought we were kind of lost in the shuffle to some degree, and so
Yes.
yeah, so that's it was something I would not do. When you propose ideas for things and you think it's so great at the time, and then sometimes later you think, why in the world did I? I mean,
Oh,
I'm
I know
glad
that all
now.
too well, Kim. Yes.
I'm glad now, but as it was moving, it was like, oh my goodness. And the director would say to me, what do you got now? And um, I'll just tell your audience ahead of time that it's in the form of a journal, because as I was creating it, I couldn't find a way to frame it. I couldn't find a way and I couldn't find a way. And then I was working with a coach and she suggested, well, I said, think I'm going to do a journal. And so I started the journal and she said, oh, I think you have to have events that people can relate to on the days that you're journaling. So
Mm-hmm.
I went back and looked at timelines and I created, I'd say on this date, this happened out there, but this happened to me. Like this happened
Yeah.
to the world. And that seemed to frame it really well. I was really having trouble. When you're creating something and you have the facts, but you can't frame it. And that was a struggle.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I'll also tell you there's one swear. And my mom saw the premiere, and at the end she said, the first thing she said, not, oh, that was great. You did a new show. Congrats. She said, you swore. What she said. Said, yep.
I'm an
Yep.
adult, Mom. I can swear.
I know, it was funny.
That's
But,
hilarious.
yeah. So that's kind of the way the show evolved. Um,
Where does this love of storytelling come from for you, Kim?
oh, my family, my grandparents were not performing storytellers, and my parents too, but they'd sit around and just tell stories, like, it just
Yeah.
was in our family.
Sounds like it's in your DNA.
Yeah, definitely, definitely. My Irish grandfather was really good at it. He was very shy, but once he got going, telling stories about things, he was awesome. So, and I think also as blind people, we listen to audiobooks, we listen to words, we listen to language, we listen to
Mhm.
people. I think we're inherently really good storytellers. We are, because that's our medium. We don't take pictures, photographs, and I mean, some of us do, but
Yep.
I think storytelling is a good medium because there's no, it's all in the spoken word, and we're not reading.
Yep.
We're orally doing this, and it's not costumes, it's not props, it's just the person and the voice and the story. So
Yep.
it's one of the most accessible art forms, one of the oldest, and I think blind people excel at it. I think blind people are inherently better at it in some ways than sighted people.
I certainly will tell you that in my like my family did the same thing. Like my grandparents would get together with their siblings and like and all tell stories, right? I love that, but I also know that when I get together in community with other blind folks or other folks with disabilities, that when we just sit around and tell each other stories of even just what happened in your day, those are some of my most fond memories, literally, of just
Yeah.
sharing in community and listening to other people, whether it's a celebration or a rant on something.
Something weird happened. And
Yeah.
every time something awful happens to me, not awful, like I mean life threatening, but
Yeah.
when the public behaves in a weird way,
You write
I
it down, don't you?
I rub my hands, I go, oh yeah, that's good. Yeah, keep
Ah, me
doing that a
too.
little longer. I have
Me
a story
too.
now. And
Yeah.
so it helps you not to be as stressed because automatically you're thinking of where can I put
What
this?
can I do with this?
What
Yeah,
can
that's
I do with
exactly what I've
this?
done. Yep.
And I think that helps us. I think it helps me get through the world,
Some of the ableism
Uh,
out there, you're like, how can I
yeah,
turn this into a
yeah.
piece?
I can turn this into something. And I'm
Yeah.
just, yeah, like you keep talking, you keep saying those weird things because we're gonna put them in. So yeah, I don't know. I think that's why it's funny because when I started storytelling, so I was well into adulthood when I finally took a workshop, and I said to some of my friends, "Well, I'm taking storytelling now." They said, "Well, it's about time." Like no one was
Yeah.
at all shocked by that. No
Yeah.
one was surprised. Um, Apparently I talked early, and I never I never slowed down after that. So I don't know, but yeah.
You
Uh,
wear it well, Kim. It fits you very well to be a storyteller.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah.
And it's very great to be back here again with all of you. It's wonderful.
Well, it's our 100th and gosh, I can't even believe. I can't it seems surreal. As does as does the pandemic seems surreal. So you're going to tell us a story that's kind of birthed out of the pandemic, and we've been doing these online episodes that have been birthed out of the pandemic, right? This like necessity to
Yeah,
create art and to stay connected with each other. So it
yeah.
feels very full circle to me.
Yeah, I hadn't thought of it that way, but absolutely. The
Yeah.
pandemic did spawn a lot of art and creativity and different ways of experiencing art.
Hmm.
And I think that's awesome. That's really great.
And you performed this once before in June. Have you
Yes.
performed it since, or is this the second day? It's
No,
almost a rebirth because you've changed it some, right?
I've shrunk it down a bit. Yeah, this is the second time. This is the second time I've done it. It I wanted to take a break, after the first one. I wanted to listen to it and absorb it a little bit and
Mhm.
see what I wanted to do with it. Um, and I don't know, I'm not saying there's not much call for it, but I think there will be call for it. But yeah, I've been sort of sitting with it, and so it was great that you asked because it was like an impetus to really go back on it again and work on it again and understand it, better almost like,
Mhm.
yeah,
That is sometimes what an artist needs. We need a reason almost to revisit something.
yeah, yeah,
Somebody says, "Oh,
yeah,
I'd like to see this." And you're like, "Oh, okay, how do I make it different? How do I renew it? How do I challenge myself to do something different. So
And to get over that feeling, especially with this show more than others of mine, that, oh, no one will want to hear this because
right.
no one wants to relive COVID. Um, but no, people did, and people were very, I don't know, they were very complimentary, but also they understood it in such a way. And oh, I had forgotten about that. And when I was looking back at timelines, I thought, yeah, I forgot the government said that, or someone said this, or we were supposed to do this, or not supposed to do that.
Well,
So
because we were all living in a bit of a state of fog, right?
yeah,
You know, it was
absolutely.
something that for any of us was kind of the first time we'd ever experienced something like that.
Absolutely. And we were
So
smug. I was smug. I was
yeah,
watching plays about the plague of, or the flu of 1918.
yeah,
And I'd
1918.
say
Yeah,
that would never happen to us. No
yeah,
way.
yeah,
And it was like basically the same kind of messages and the same things.
yeah,
It's pretty fascinating that, we did that. But
yeah. Well, I don't know about the rest of our audience, but I am certainly ready to give the floor over to
all
you,
right.
Kim, and
Well,
listen
I'm
to
going to turn off
Dangerous
my
Touch.
computer sound so I don't get distracted by such things. I have a sip of water, and I did tell everyone this is in the form of a journal.
You did, yes.
Mhm.
It's actually one of my favorite ways of storytelling. I actually have a journal piece that I'm doing too that I just did at the Vines Festival this summer. So
Awesome.
girl
Yeah,
after
it's
my own heart.
okay. Well,
All
here
right,
we go. Get
here we
ready to
go.
go back to 2020. March 11, 2020. The WHO has declared COVID a global pandemic. A part of me is shocked and scared, but a part of me is not surprised at all. After all, COVID has been in the news for weeks. First, it was in China. That was scary, but China's far away. I was more disturbed by the news coming from Italy, hospitals overrun. And now it's in Canada. And now it's here in Ottawa, coming ever closer to me. But even if it is, how would I know? It's hard to believe that just 2 weeks ago, I attended an accessibility conference in Montreal. I took the VIA train there and back. I stayed in a hotel. I spent the day in a ballroom filled with people. Was COVID around me even then? March 12, 2020. Sports leagues are shutting down. Theaters are going dark. My phone rings. It's my trainer from Guide Dogs for the Blind. I'm sorry, Kim, she said. I knew you were expecting a dog this spring, and I'd already chosen your wonderful next guide dog. But we can't bring a dog to you right now. Guide Dogs is not allowed to bring any dogs into Canada for the next 4 months. What? I was so glad when I heard you were picking my next guiding partner. In 2001, when I came to guide dogs after having a dog that was totally distracted and I couldn't control, you gave me my wonderful golden Gia. So calm, so steady, so kind. And when she retired in 2010, and I didn't know if any dog could feel her paws, you presented me with my joyful, charismatic Tulia. I know you'd picked a dog for me now, and I was waiting for it. You promised me this spring. What's going to happen now? We're going to put your dog in foster care for 4 months. I promise we will keep it for you, and someone will bring it to you in Canada in July. I'm tempted to ask her to tell me something about the dog. Trainers almost never do this. But I figure today, when every rug has been pulled out from under my feet, maybe she will. I don't ask about the dog, but I do say, you promise me? Only 4 months? I promise, she said. Stay safe. We've been crying on the phone, and I hang up with shaking hands. Why is my guide dog school of choice in the US with campuses in California and Oregon? I was living in British Columbia when I got my first dog, and I'd never thought of changing schools. I never wanted to until now. I live in Ottawa, where there are a couple of guide dog schools nearby. If I changed and applied to one of them, could I get a dog sooner? Did I want to change? In this ever-changing time of COVID, did I want to trust a different school? I didn't. So I will wait for 4 months. But why am I getting a dog at this worst possible time? In the summer of 2019, I applied for my 5th dog from Guide Dogs for the Blind. I had interviews, application forms, and then in September 2019, I'd been waiting for a few weeks to see if they'd accept me again. My phone rang. It was one of the trainers, and they said, "Congratulations, I'd been accepted, and someone would bring me a dog in the spring for home training." I hung up the phone. I was so excited and nervous. And then I felt guilty, like I was betraying my guide dog, Tulia, my constant companion of 9 years. But she'd showed me in no uncertain terms on a June morning of 2019 that she did not want to work anymore. We set off for work, regular 8-block walk to work in the beautiful sunshine, and she walked about a block and then she sat down in the middle of the sidewalk and refused to get up. We know this as the years go by with our guide dogs, that the time is getting closer when they need to retire and we need to have that roller coaster journey again to get a new dog. But somehow we push it to the back of our mind. We say, no, this dog is still happy to work. I can work a little longer with this dog. It's okay. But this morning I couldn't push it away. My hands were shaking, a lump like a boulder in my throat, cold all over, heart pounding. But I tried to sound cheerful and friendly as I said, "Come on, Tulia, you don't have to work anymore if you don't want to. You don't have to walk all the way to work. Just find the bus stop for me. I can't carry you on my shoulders." Eventually, I was able to coax her to her feet, and she walked slowly to the bus stop. I hugged her when we got there. I thought about all of the times we had stood here over the last 9 years, in bright sun, cold wind, pouring rain, and wondered if this was the last time we would do it. When the bus arrived, the driver said, "Good morning." I mumbled "good morning" through tears and said, "Tulia, forward inside. Find a seat." She found a seat. She'd always had a particular talent for doing this. Would this be the last time we did it? When we got to work, Tulia got off the bus and walked slowly the last block to our office. When I entered my office, I sat down at my desk, buried my head in my arms, and cried. When my colleagues arrived, I told them, "Tulia doesn't want to work anymore." Each time I said it, it felt worse and more real. At lunchtime, I decided to go and pick up some takeout food at a restaurant a couple blocks away. My colleague said, "We'll go get food for you." I felt angry. I almost snapped, "No, don't you think I can do this for myself?" But then I thought, they're just trying to be nice and take care of you. You'd do the same if the roles were reversed. So I just said, "No, thank you. I need to do this with my cane." "Do you want us to walk with you?" "No, thank you." I knew I needed to do this by myself. I left Tulia in the office and set off, swinging the fiberglass cane that felt flimsy and not safe. I kept reaching out to pat and talk to the non-existent dog at my left side. I made it to the food place and back, but every part of this journey felt awkward and awful. I didn't want to be out here with this cane. I wanted my Tulia to work forever. But I knew that couldn't happen, and so that is why I'm here now, waiting for a new guiding partner. March 16, 2020. Our city's public health officer has instructed everyone to work from home as much as possible. I'm lucky that I can work from home. I have a job helping blind Canadians learn how to use technology. But in order to work from home, I had to go to my office to pick up the computer. I set off with my cane, walking down the empty streets. It was eerie. I live in downtown Ottawa. A week ago, the streets were teeming with people. Now there's hardly anyone out. And when someone is out, I hear footsteps and then I hear them scurrying across the street to get as far away from me as possible. And I don't even call hello, which seems kind of rude. As I walk these streets, my footsteps echoing and the taps of my cane very loud in the quiet, I think about Tulia's last walk to work. After that awful day in June, every day when I get ready for work, if Tulia wanted to come with me, she would watch me pick up my keys, put on my jacket, put on my shoes, and if she wanted to come, she would run down to the door, and if she didn't, she would go on her bed. One November day of 2019, she ran eagerly to the door when I got ready. I put on her harness as I always did. I let her work for as long as she wanted, and then I would use my cane to guide us the rest of the way. But this day, she kept walking fast and accurate. It was like she was a young dog again. She went all the way to work. It was beautiful. As I walk now, I think of that last perfect walk. She never went with me to work again. It was like she was telling me she wanted to finish on top of her game. I reach the office, pick up my computer, and start back. I won't have to do this for very long, maybe a couple of weeks, perhaps. March 21st, 2020. The border between Canada and the US is officially closed for at least a month. Well, that's okay with me. There's a lot of COVID there, and besides, as long as they open in time to bring me a guide dog this summer, that will be all right. People are saying avoid touching things as much as possible. Well, that's a problem for me. Don't touch your face. I touch my face every day to feel if it's clean. When you're out in public, don't touch anything. I have to touch everything all the time. My hands are like a sighted person's eyes. If you have to touch things, wear gloves. No, gloves are like blindfold for the hands. I hate wearing gloves. I don't even wear gloves when I'm doing dishes. I can't feel if they're clean. And I hate wearing them even in the winter. What am I supposed to do? If touch is dangerous, how can I navigate my world? You must see with your hands, Kim, my mom said, even when I was really little, walking through the grocery store with her. She passed me something. See with your hands, what is this? I touched it. Smooth skin and a stem and a couple of little leaves and the smell of my glass of apple juice. That's an apple. That's right. Now feel this. Rougher skin, different smell. That's an orange. That's right. I loved feeling all the things she passed me in the store, outside on walks, in the mall, in the museum. And she showed me how to find things on the counter. Not like a sighted person looks and glances at the counter and then swoops down to grab what they need. I have to systematically run my hands all over the counter. One day in the kitchen, feeling for a snack, running my hands all over the counter, and all of a sudden, there's an animal here on the counter in broad daylight. I touched it, it moved, it's gross. It's a gross, hairy thing on the counter, and I screamed. Mom came running in. Mom knew there were things I liked to touch, I would touch them eagerly, like my stuffed animals. And if there were things I hated to touch, like the inside of the pumpkin, I would fold my hands in close to my chest and run away from that thing. And I had my hands in tight. Mom, there's a scary animal here on the counter. I don't see anything here, Kim. No, there is. I felt it. It moved. It moved fast when I touched it. It's hairy and gross. Oh, my mom laughed. She picked something up and put it in my hands, and I screamed again. I said, yes, that thing. That's what it is. Hairy and gross. An animal. She said, it's not an animal. It's a kiwi fruit. And you just hit it with your hand and it rolled. Oh, okay, I said. My dad said, touch these letters and numbers, and that way you can feel what the house numbers are or numbers on the mailbox. And he passed me the magnetic letters on our fridge. My mom said, feel your clothes to know what they are and know what matches. This soft shirt goes with the jeans. Feel your shoes, know which is left and right. Shopping for clothes. Well, when I go shopping for clothes, I like to walk around the racks and touch all the fabrics. And if there's a fabric I like, I pull the garment out and feel it to see whether I might want to try it on. Even if something is supposed to look great on me, if it's a yucky fabric that I don't like, I will not wear it. It doesn't matter. One day, shopping for clothes with a friend, walking around the racks, touching all the nice fabrics, all of a sudden I felt this beautiful furry coat. I thought I could wear something like this, and I was stroking the furry coat when all of a sudden it moved just like the kiwi fruit on the counter, and a haughty voice said, "What in the world are you doing?" "Um, I'm shopping for clothes," I said. "Get your hands off me," she said, and started to march away. Then I think she saw my dog, and then she turned back, said, "Oh, I understand, dear," and patted me on the shoulder. "Kim, you need to touch things to know where you are," my first grade teacher said. "Feel the door to our classroom. It has a knob that pulls, and the door to the school has a handle that pushes away from you. And feel this. This is your name in Braille." I touched the bumps on the card. So now, touch is dangerous. Now I'm not even allowed to touch the Braille on the elevators when I go out or Braille on the signs. How would sighted people like it if someone told them they couldn't read print? I might go into the wrong bathroom or the wrong floor on the elevator. How is this sense that I use so much now suddenly dangerous? The only time touch was dangerous before was when I touched the boa constrictor by mistake, or when I touched the cactus when I was trying to feel a flower. I suppose the lady in the fur coat was a little bit dangerous too. March 24th, 2020. The Olympics and Paralympics are now postponed till 2021. Well, by that time, for sure, COVID will be long gone and I'll be able to touch everything again with wild abandon. But I've decided anyway that touch is too important to give up. If I have to do constant hand cleaning, that's what I'll do. But speaking of hand cleaning, how am I supposed to know how to do that? We're told to wash our hands while we sing happy birthday twice. I find videos online, but they all have music and bubbles and water, but they don't tell you how to wash your hands. Finally, I find one that describes it, and I realize that I probably haven't been washing my hands right for years. Not touching things makes me feel left out, and trying to get information makes me feel left out. Not to mention the COVID testing. How am I supposed to do that if I need to? There's no site to get tested near where I live. But what if I'm feeling sick? Do I want to get on public transit or into a cab or Uber? Or ask a family member to drive me and make other people sick? Or do I just stay home and not get tested? April 2nd, 2020. I'm kind of addicted to the news, but every time I listen to it, it makes me anxious and worried. But there's someone in our household who is not anxious, who loves these COVID times, and that's my retired guide dog, Tulia. She is so excited that I'm now home with her every day, just like we were when she was working with me. And I take her for many walks a day. And now I use my cane to take us, and she can sniff every pole, every blade of grass. When I'm anxious, she's calm. When I wake up in the morning and worry, she jumps up, ready to start her day. Her calmness makes me calmer. Another few months, and there'll be another dog in this house. I wonder what she'll think of that. April 3rd, 2020. Rumors are all over the news that the British Prime Minister is seriously sick with COVID. It's my birthday, the strangest birthday ever. My mom drives to my house, drops gift on my porch, runs back to her car and calls, "I love you," as I grab the things from the porch. Every time I think of happy birthday, all it reminds me of is washing my hands twice. April 6th, 2020. The rumors were true. The British Prime Minister is now in the ICU with COVID. And my doctor calls and tells me I need to stay home as much as possible, not even to go out and do groceries. She says this because I'm immune compromised. I'm vulnerable. I hate those words, immune compromised, vulnerable. That makes me sound weak and pathetic. But I am immune compromised because I have rheumatoid arthritis. I've had rheumatoid arthritis for about 15 years. When I first got the symptoms, I didn't know what it was, and no one seemed to know what it was. But I was having more and more troubles walking and moving. I had constant pain. I was tired, and it just kept getting worse. The first doctor I saw said maybe I was having problems walking because I was blind. I told him that I've been blind all my life, and I haven't had problems walking all my life till now. He said, well, maybe the guide dog is making me have pain because they have to pull me. I said I'd had guide dogs for years and I'd never had pain like this before. I tried everything, but nothing worked. I went to doctors and no one listened until this one doctor one day who said almost right away, I'm pretty sure you have rheumatoid arthritis. Arthritis? That's an old person's disease, I said. No, she said it isn't. Not the autoimmune kind. Well, I'm blind already, I said. I don't need another disability. She said, I don't think it works that way. I knew it didn't work that way. It was nice to know that I had it and what it was and what I could do about it, but still I grieved and I raged. And then finally I accepted it, started to take the medications that help me to live a full life and feel better. It's ironic to think now that these same medications that I take to help me move around and be productive might cause me to have a worse case of COVID. And not only are we supposed to not touch things, and I'm immune compromised and vulnerable, but they say that if you get COVID, you might lose your sense of taste and smell. Well, that's great. Taking away one sense after another, I use smell to get around almost as much as I use touch. I mean, my travel instructor told me, smell to know where you are. When you smell the flowering bush, you're almost at your walkway. When you smell the pizza place, you're at the right corner to turn. When you get to a store and you open the door, smell first to see if you're in the right place. Bread, you're at the bakery. That smell of soap and perfume, you're at the pharmacy. Leather, you're at the shoe store. I smell things in the house too. I smell spices to know what to put in. I smell cartons to make sure I don't pour juice on my cereal. I smell which is the human toothpaste, which is the doggy toothpaste, which is the lotion. I smell boxes of tea to find the right one. How could I do without smell? April 15th, 2020. This is a disturbing time. We've passed 100 deaths with COVID. No, 1,000 deaths with COVID, I'm sorry. It's disturbing news, but there is one thing I really like about these times. I live downtown, and now this busy downtown filled with people and traffic is so quiet that it feels like I'm living in a country village somewhere. I love it. Inside, I can hear each person walking by. I can hear conversations, dogs walking. I can hear birds singing. The air smells fresh and clean. And when I go for a walk, my cane tapping along the sidewalk, all I hear is my cane tapping, my footsteps, Tulia's paws, her jingling collar, and her sniffing nose. There's no one around pulling me, trying to take me where they think I want to go. Like that time before COVID when I was standing waiting for a bus. The bus arrived, and suddenly a gentleman behind me with a strong Southern US accent said, "Here you go, young lady," and lifted me by the elbows and put me on the bus, my guide dog jumping after to follow. Luckily, it was the bus I wanted. But now there's none of that. People scurrying away to get as far away from me as possible. I can hear things so clearly. And hearing is such an important sense for me, too. Listen, my family would say. Listen to the sounds in the house. That way you know where you are. The hum of the fridge, you're in the kitchen. The radio, you're in the living room. Listen to people's footsteps. You can sometimes tell who they are by their feet. Listen to the sounds your feet make on the grass, on the sidewalk, on the gravel. My travel instructor said, listen to the pattern of the cars to know when it's safe to cross the street. Listen to the sounds around you. If you hear the fan, you know you're at the corner store. When you hear the revolving door, that's the government building. Listen. Now, listening is easier now and harder. Easier because I can hear so much more, but harder because sometimes there's no way of knowing, say, when to cross the street because there's no traffic. And there's no one to ask when the light is green. Until sometimes, when I hear absolutely no traffic in any direction, I just run across the street with my cane. June 20, 2020. Canada has had 100,000 cases of COVID. Our public health officer is saying we should wear a cloth mask when we are out in public. At first, I don't even know what these masks feel like. And then some friends make me some. The first one I put on goes from my chin all the way up my nose and over my eyes. Well, that's okay. It doesn't matter. My eyes don't work anyway. And besides, maybe my eyes would be a path for COVID to get in. Has anyone gotten COVID through their eyes? I have this mask on when my friend comes over to show me her new puppy. She said, "You look ridiculous with that." "Oh, do I look sinister?" I said, "like a blind bank robber?" And she just laughed. When I have the mask on, though, all I can smell is the detergent I use to wash them. And also, it kind of messes up my echolocation. I've had echolocation ever since I can remember. I didn't even know what it was at first. I just knew that I liked making sounds that would bounce off the walls and things, and I knew where things were. Sort of a feeling in the side of my face and a sense. I could tell where there were open doors. I could tell where people were. I could tell where to turn in a hallway. It's echolocation like a bat. And when I was little and my parents bought me some soft shoes, I cried and said I wanted clicky shoes. I only wanted clicky shoes and pants that made noise like corduroys and snow pants. That was so I could hear the sounds bouncing off things. Now with my mask on, my echolocation feels a little bit duller. But gradually it improves again. I guess we can learn anything if we have to. July 31st, 2020. The government of Canada has introduced the COVID Alert app and instructed us all to put it on our phone. When I do put it on my phone, I'm pleasantly surprised to find that it's totally accessible. One thing I don't have to lobby for. One thing I'm not lobbying for is my guide dog. The borders are still closed. On the one hand, I don't mind. There's still a lot of COVID in the US. I don't even want to call and ask where that dog that was promised for me is. Because now they're starting classes again for Americans, but only those living close to campus. Maybe they have one of my dogs, my dog. When I tell friends that I'm missing having a guide dog so much, some of them say, "Well, you don't need a dog right now. You're working from home all the time." I said, "I do. And how would you like it if I told you you didn't need a car because you were working from home all the time?" I miss that so much. It's like an ache inside me. I love walking with Tulia, but I miss going for fast walks. I miss that feeling of two heads figuring out how to get around. could have used a dog today when I went to the coffee shop. I mean, that was a big adventure going to the coffee shop. Never was a big adventure before. I mean, when someone said, you want to go for coffee, you wouldn't think twice about it. You just go to the coffee shop. But now going out at all is always an adventure. First of all, if a store has two entrances, they might have one of them closed. And usually that's the one on the sidewalk they'll close and leave the parking lot one open. And I hate that because you have to walk through parking lots, and that's always a huge adventure. Walking in big open spaces with cars moving randomly around you is no good. And then if you get to the door, is there a sign on the door that says something? We're open, we're closed, please wear a mask. I don't know what the sign says. I mean, sure, I pull out my phone and try to read it or try to find someone to tell me, but people always scurry away when they see each other. Or I could make a video call to family and ask if there's any sign. But why should I do that when I just want to go and get a coffee, run some errands? Or maybe I should just stay home and make my own coffee. No, you should go out and practice your cane skills. Good practice for when you get a dog. Maybe I'll never get another dog. The walk to the coffee shop was uneventful, and luckily the sidewalk door to the coffee shop is open, and the coffee shop is open, or at least I think it's the coffee shop. But when I opened the door, the previously crowded space that felt cozy and smelled like coffee felt like a big echoey space, like a abandoned building or a haunted house or something. So I call into the empty space, hello? Is this the coffee shop? My voice echoes. Someone's voice comes back to me and said, yes, it is. Are you open? Yes, we are. I step in and then I wonder, are there X's on the floor? That's another thing we can't feel is the X's on the floor where you're supposed to stand to keep distance from others. So I move forward and I stick my cane out and think, well, I'll keep my cane between me and whoever else happens to be there. But there didn't seem to be a lineup. Can I help you? Said a voice. My parents always told me to face the person I'm talking to, but I don't know how to face this person because her voice bounces off the plexiglass and I don't know where she is. So I say, excuse me, but are you standing right in front of me? Yes, I am, she says, as if she's asked this question every day of her working life. Oh, okay, I said in order. She says, in order to pay, I have to tap my card on the plexiglass. Well, I don't know where to tap it on the plexiglass, but she guides me with the skill of an air traffic controller. A little bit left, a little bit up, a little bit down. There, I hear the beep. Now your coffee will be ready in the hole in the counter. I think, what in the world is a hole in the counter? What is that? Is that like a cup holder in a car? What is a hole in the counter? I start to walk to my right along the counter. I wonder if I should touch it or not. And then I hear her ahead of me tapping a takeout cup. She said, 5 feet ahead of you on your left. She's guiding me still like the air traffic controller. 1 foot ahead of you now, put out your hand. And she's tapping that cup. I put out my hand and there is a hole the size of a cup in the plexiglass, and I pull the cup through. I thank her and retrace my steps. And then I'm really excited because this is normal. I have a coffee in my hand. I can drink the coffee. And as I move the coffee towards my mouth, I realize I can't drink the coffee because I'm wearing a mask. And I can't take my mask off because I'm inside. I guess I'll just have to carry this coffee home. Why did this event, getting coffee, suddenly become such a dangerous adventure? September 8th, 2020. Students are going back to school after months of online learning. Speaking of learning, people keep saying they were learning so much during COVID and it's so tiring having to adapt to everything every day, something new every day. And I just laughed and think, welcome to my world. I mean, this is what we do every day of our lives as people with disabilities. You know what I think? I think that the government should have hired a whole bunch of people with disabilities to help advise them in COVID strategies. We are the experts in adapting to things. I've been blind all my life, and I've had tools that used to work for getting around the world, but Somehow these trusted tools aren't working so well anymore. September the 23rd, 2020. Some of our leaders and their families are sick with COVID, and they say that a second wave is upon us. I took a trip to the dentist today. And you know what? I dressed up. I dressed up for the dentist. Imagine that. I was so excited because it wasn't just going for a walk with Tulia or going to get a coffee. I went to the dentist. When I got there, they said, how did they want me to be guided to the back to get my teeth cleaned? Well, originally, I normally would say I could take their arm, but for months on end, people have been told to cough and sneeze into their arms. And so do I really want to be holding a possible germ-infested arm? I don't think so. They could hold on to the other end of my cane, but of course, that cane's been touching all kinds of pavement, so it could be germ-infested too, and they might not want to touch that. So I just follow them with my cane. If I had a dog, that would be so much easier. I try not to think about it because either I feel really sad or really angry when I do. October 20, 2020, our case count has passed 200,000. This means I'm not going anywhere anytime soon to any conference or artistic performance. I used to love doing this, love it and also not like it. Because it's kind of stressful. It's fun to travel to new places, but you just don't know what's going to happen. So am I going to find the conference room or theater? Am I going to know where to take myself to pee? Am I going to know where to take my dog to pee? Am I going to know where there's food or drinks? Am I going to know where to sit? Am I going to sit in the right place? Am I going to sit facing the stage or with my back to it by mistake? Are people going to talk to me or not talk to me? It's such a mystery. You know what I wonder why this happens is when you step into a room and people see you there, sighted people, they all of a sudden stop talking. I don't get it, because if they stop talking, how am I going to know where they are? And I'm in more danger of colliding with them in their full cup of coffee. So sometimes that happens, or they talk to me in overly loud, condescending voices or ignore me. But sometimes it's great. And you meet like-minded people and have great conversations and everything goes smoothly. But nowadays, we're doing all this over Zoom. And there's bad things about that. It's kind of nice to actually be with people in a space. But there's good things about it too. I mean, I'm in my house. I know where my snacks are and my drinks are. I know where to pee and I know where to take my dog to pee. And I can look at the participant list in Zoom and know who's there. You can't do this in a big crowd. Sighted people can look around and say, oh, there's that person. I want to talk to Kim, but I don't know. But on Zoom, I do know who's there and I can message them and say, I'd like to chat later. So I feel much more powerful in a way doing this over Zoom. November 20, 2020. Our case count has now passed 300,000 in Canada. I performed for the first time at the Storyteller over Zoom today. I was so nervous. I didn't know, I can't see a thumbs up or smile or any of that. I missed that conversation and the hugs and hearing the audience, the laughs, the gasps. It's like I was pouring my voice down a hole and hoping it landed on receptive ears. April 3rd, 2021. We're in lockdown again. I'm not really sure which number of lockdown this is exactly, but my second COVID birthday in lockdown. More gifts on the porch, conversations by phone. Needles are going into arms, and I tried to book my vaccine today, but the portal wasn't very accessible. Makes me tired. Why do I have to advocate for every little thing? I just want to curl up sometimes and read a book till this is all over. When is this going to be over? April 20, 2020. I got my first needle today. I walked to the pharmacy to get it. I cried when he gave it to me. He asked if I was afraid of needles, and I said, no, I'm just so grateful for you, for the science, for this needle. I walked home using my cane. I'm getting really good at using the cane. I don't mind it really, but it's a lot slower. When you use a cane, it finds things and you have to find your way around them. With a dog, they take you around those things. After I get home, I take Tulia for a walk. I got a needle today, Tulia. And I didn't even get a treat like you do when you get a needle at the vet. Maybe, Tulia, maybe soon we'll have another dog here. What do you think you'll think of that? She just sniffed a pole and wagged her tail. Sometimes I'm really afraid that she's going to die before I get another dog. June 20th, 2020. Things are opening up again. Malls are opening. People are sitting on patios. And at 11:30 this morning, my pharmacist called to ask if I wanted to come at 1:30 to get my second needle. I was so excited. I practically ran over there to get it. Boy, if anyone had said to me 2 years ago that I'd be running and excited to go and get a needle, I would tell them they didn't know what they were talking about. I walk home after getting the needle. Now I've had 2 shots. I can tell the guide dog school. They are starting to serve Canadians slowly, but they won't have anyone to class that hasn't had 2 doses. I start to feel a little bit of hope. It's a beautiful sunny day. August 1st, 2021. I was feeling hopeful, and now I'm not sure. I don't know. People are starting to go to the American guide dog schools, and the summer's passing, and there's no news for me about a dog. I've done everything they told me for 2 years. I've done it all. I've worn a mask, I've stayed home, I've gotten 2 needles. I've ridden the exercise bike to stay in shape, I've gone for walks with friends, I've taken Tulia for walks, I've used my cane. Well, why can't someone think creatively and help me get a dog? I've done everything. I feel like the schools have done nothing. I lobby, I fight, I cry tears of rage and frustration. August 9th, 2021. The borders are somewhat open now to Canadians going to the US and Americans coming here. Maybe something will happen. My phone rings. It's the trainer from Guide Dogs. She says, Kim, I think we might have a dog for you. They're still in training, but if they pass, I think they'd be a good match. Do you think you could come to class to Oregon? I said, I'll ask my doctor. Could I get this dog? Don't get your hopes up, a little voice says. These are COVID times. August 10th, 2021. I call my doctor and ask if I could go to the US to guide dog class, and she says absolutely not. There's too much COVID there and you're vulnerable. I call the school and tell them. And then I'm crying and I think, is yet another dog going to go to someone else? August 15th, 2021. My phone rings. Every time my phone has rung for the past few days, I've been on pins and needles, heart pounding. This time it is the trainer. And she says, I have great news for you. If we can get a trainer into Canada, and if the dog passes the final tests, would you be able to start guide dog training at home on September the 8th? I say, yes, I would. Maybe this is going to work out this time. Don't get your hopes up. You know COVID. August 21st, 2020, 2022. No, 2021. I'm sorry, 2021. The trainer calls to give me more details about the dog. She's an introverted dog. Why are you giving me an introverted dog, I wonder? Oh, but she's perfect for you. She's quiet and calm, and she just takes a long time to warm up to people. I ask for more details, the name, the breed. I've done this every time I've gotten a guide dog, and every time trainers will never tell you anything. So I'm shocked when she actually tells me everything about this dog, the name, the color, the breed. And it's a great name too. It's one of the best names of all my dogs. But I try not to think about it when I hang up, because what if something happens and yet another dog slips out of my hands? I wish in a way she hadn't told me the name. September 3rd, 2021. The trainer calls me to set things up. I've been really anxious the last few weeks, calling and emailing the school and wondering if I'm really going to have training on September 8th. He assures me that if everything lines up, I will. First of all, I have to test negative for COVID, and so does he. Then he has to get across the border safely into Canada. If he does this, then he's going to call the school and they're going to send the dog to Montreal, and he'll drive to Montreal and pick the dog up and bring the dog to me. That's a lot of moving pieces. But maybe this will work out. Don't get your hopes up. You know, COVID. September 7th, 2021. It feels like I'm in a spy novel. I get a call from the trainer. He's made it safely into Canada. I get another call. The dog has passed the final training, and they're sending the dog to Montreal tomorrow. If the dog makes it in, then everything will be good. September 8th, 2021. Dog Day, Dog Day. Dog Day is always such a special day. It's full with excitement and happiness and nervousness and memories of previous dogs. It's a strange kind of a day. But this is the strangest one I've ever had. I mean, usually I've waited for my dog at a school and got my dog after lunch, but this time I'm going to get my dog at night. 8 a.m. The trainer calls me. He's in his hotel in Ottawa and he's about to drive to Montreal, and he'll pick up the dog this afternoon. 6 p.m. The trainer calls me from Montreal. The dog has landed, but they haven't yet made it through customs. 7 p.m. The trainer calls me, and now he and the dog are in his car coming to me. They'll be here in about 2 hours. 2 hours. I wait. I pace the floor. I listen for the phone. I listen for car doors. At 9 p.m., I get a call. They're outside. I run out onto the porch, and there she is, a little tiny, soft yellow lab named Ginger. She wags gently when she meets me and just strolls calmly into my life. She's had a long day. 2 flights, no food. We feed her and take her out, and then the trainer leaves. We'll be back to start training in the morning. Ginger and I go to bed. Tulia is staying with friends while I train with Ginger. September 9th, 2021. 5 a.m. I take Ginger out to pee. We've had a restless night. When you get a new dog, you're always listening for things. You're listening for sounds. Are they chewing things, throwing up, peeing, moving around? She wasn't, but we both were kind of restless. 7 a.m. I give Ginger her breakfast. Like any good Labrador, she's very happy about this. 8 a.m. training starts. This is going to be great. I waited so long. I've waited over 2 years for this. This is going to be great. I know my neighborhood. I'll show Ginger my neighborhood. We will be brilliant together. This will be perfect. 10 a.m. I step outside and put the harness on Ginger. Each dog is such a different shape and size and feel to them. And then I say for the first time, Ginger, forward. And I'm expecting for a beautiful thing to happen. For us to walk out confidently down our street and go striding along and gliding along. No, that's not what happens. She's slow and cautious. It's garbage day, and there are garbage bags and green bins and blue boxes and compost bins and everything all over the sidewalks. I thought she was confident, this dog. I always asked for a confident dog, but she sort of went slowly along the sidewalk. She didn't run me into anything. She's very careful. But I wanted to fly. I didn't want to dawdle along like a turtle. I didn't like it. And I was worried too, because in class, if the dog doesn't work out, they might have another dog for you, but this is it. We're doing home training. They brought her here. If it doesn't work out, they'll have to take her away. And then how long would I wait for another dog? 12 p.m. I get back home and tell the instructor it was awful. And he said, it's just a first walk. I go inside and I text all my guide dog using friends and tell them how awful it was, and how much I love her as a dog, but I don't know if she's the right one for me. And they all text me back and say, it's just a first walk. And I think, yes, that's right. First walk with my first dog, I thought I was being shot out of a cannon. 1 p.m., second walk. I'm so nervous before we walk. I hope it's a little better than this morning. She speeds up nicely to a trot, and I don't like it at first. It feels jarring on my arms. But then I start to get used to it, and I realize that she's moving. She's so meticulous getting me around things, and she's looking ahead to make sure that we don't trip over anything. Maybe this is going to work out. September 17th, 2021. We're graduated. We're a team. It was hard doing in-home training. Training is always hard. You work all day long, going to all different areas. And in this case, we did buses and our LRT system. We went to work. We went to the groceries and the pharmacy. We visited the vet. We went to see Tulia, who was staying with my friends, to make sure they got along. And they did. Tulia wasn't thrilled to think about a young dog being with her, but they were very polite, gentle dogs, and so they got along okay. But we did it. We had to stay masked all the time. And we did it. So onwards we go to become a team. October 28th, 2021. I performed live for the first time today as a storyteller in Montreal. It was bliss. I love to hear the sound of the audience journeying with me through my story. I was worried about Ginger. That was our first trip together, but I needn't have been. She traveled like a pro on the train and staying in the hotel. She was perfect. January 27th, 2022. We're in the middle of another lockdown because of the Omicron variant in Ontario. My Tulia is very sick. This dog that could sleep anywhere is not sleeping at all. This dog that loved to eat and drink won't eat or drink. This dog that never threw up hardly at all is throwing up constantly. I have a vet appointment in the morning. They tell me that I can't come in with the dog unless it's for euthanasia. That word makes me sad, but I feel in my heart it's going to happen tomorrow. Tulia's just over 13 now. All day, I try to take care of her. How can we be prepared? Can we ever be prepared for these moments? I feel helpless as I lie with her and pat her and talk to her, try to get her to eat or drink. Ginger doesn't come near us for a long time. Usually, in the last few months when I patted one dog, the other one had to be there getting pats too, but Ginger goes away by herself. She comes back every now and then, checks in. She moves so quietly in the house that I can hardly hear her, but then there'll be a little face on my shoulder, a little body against my back. At night, I lie with Tulia, wrapped up in blankets on the floor, and I talk to her and tell her what a wonderful dog she is. Ginger comes and lies against my back, and she licks Tulia's face. January 28th, 2021. The trucks are arriving in Ottawa to protest vaccines and COVID mandates and masks. I get up in the morning, haven't slept much, haven't eaten much. Tulia's been up most of the night. My friend comes with the car to take us to the vet. I step outside with Tulia. The air is cold and clear and I breathe it in. So does Tulia. She takes her time sniffing the snow by our house. And then we put her in the back seat on the blanket and go to the vet. When we arrive, I make the call. I'm here with Tulia. We'll come and get her. Someone needs to carry her in. I think she's so sick. And when you go in, can you please not leave her alone? I can't bear the thought of her going in there by herself without me. A vet tech I know, a beautiful man, comes to the car. He opens the door and he talks to Tulia gently, lifts her up and carries her in. They said the vet would call me in a few minutes, but in a few minutes he's back banging on the window saying we need to come inside. I get out of the car. I've left Ginger at home, and I realize that I don't even have a cane. So I start crying. I don't have a cane. I don't have a cane or a guide dog. 2 arms are around my shoulders, the vet tech and my friend. We'll help you, they said. I keep thinking that's not a way to guide a blind person. I should take your arm, but I don't. The arms feel comforting and right. There's a step coming up, they say. Now the flight of stairs in. Now we're inside the door. Then my vet is there, arm around me, and we make the decision quickly through tears. We know it's time. I lie on the floor with Tulia on a blanket, tears falling behind my mask, and I talk to her. Mine is the last hand she feels and the last voice she hears, and she slips away peacefully. And I go home, and there's Ginger. She's solemn and subdued, and every time we go outside, she goes out willingly, but when we go back in, she keeps looking over her shoulder, I think expecting an older black dog to come up the stairs. I miss Tulia so much. I miss her wagging tail. I miss her sleeping on my feet. I miss her bouncy walk, and I miss her rolling around on the floor to get her belly patted. I miss her joy. Saturday, January 29th. The trucks have truly arrived in Ottawa, and it is scary loud. They fill the air that was so clean at the beginning of COVID with fumes that choke me. They fill the air that was so quiet at the beginning of COVID with horns and fireworks and loud screams of freedom. Well, I want freedom. I want freedom to have peace and quiet, to grieve for a dog who moved through the world with so much joy, who loved everyone and was loved by everyone. When I take Ginger out, it's scary loud, and I hate it. I go inside, I put on headphones, and I listen to music. I pat Ginger, and I remember Tulia, and I hope they just stay for the weekend and then leave me alone in peace. January 31st, 2021. They have not left, those trucks. They're here all the time. It's noise all the time where I live downtown, and on the corner near me, there's a constant line of trucks. But I've stayed in enough over the last 2 years. This is my city, this is my town, this is my streets, and I am not going to let anyone keep me inside. My dog and I are going to walk when we want to walk, where we want to walk. So we set off at 7 in the morning, up to the corner, long line of trucks with the motors running. Diesel motors are hard for a blind person. They cover up all other sounds. It's hard to cross a street because you can't hear when to do it. You can't hear people approaching. And I imagine it would be like fog for sighted people. I have to walk 8 blocks out of my way to get around all those trucks to cross the street. I go up to the coffee shop, the one with the air traffic controller, get a coffee and start back. When I'm almost home, I realize that I'll need to cross the street to get home. It's okay. It's daylight now, and I'm sure that when I get to the corner, someone will see me and help me. I get to the corner of the street. All I hear are motors and fumes and sounds of people yelling and honking. I stand there and wait, listening for someone I can ask to help me get across the street, hoping the truckers will stop their motors or get out and help. But no one does. I stand there what feels like hours, but probably maybe 5 minutes. And then I decide I'm not standing here anymore. I'm going to have to walk 8 blocks out of my way again to get around. And they don't even care. They're not even going to come and help me. They're blocking my streets. I turn left and tell Ginger forward. She trots along in this path. Ginger is as steady and as solid as a rock. She's calm and poised, and she's always meticulous in her work. And so gentle and calm, but I don't feel gentle and calm. Suddenly, I've had enough of COVID, of the truckers, of everything, and I just scream, fucking assholes, behind my mask. The motors cover that up too. I walk the 8 blocks out of my way and home. February 5th, 2022. Truckers are still here, and it's terrible on the weekends especially. I went for a walk, Ginger and I today this morning. We started out one way, and all I heard is people screaming freedom and other people saying, go back to your town and leave us alone. And someone saying, I don't have to, I can stay whenever I want. I feel scared. I don't usually feel scared living here, so I turn the other way and walk towards the other corner. And then I hear someone yelling that they're going to come and beat someone up. And they better watch it or someone's going to come and break the windows. And then I hear someone yelling at me, I think it's me, to take off my effing mask. I can't take it. I don't feel safe here. And I hate not feeling safe. I hate it. I decide that I'm going to just go home. I start to walk home, and the lady says, excuse me. I jump. And all she says is, I just wanted to say you have a beautiful dog. It makes me mad that I jumped and was worried that she was going to confront me. I go inside, and Ginger and I play tug with her stuffed shark. Nothing much seems to faze her, but I'm rattled. February 15th, 2022. We go for walks first thing in the morning before it gets too loud. But still, there's that line of trucks, and we still have to walk 8 blocks out of our way. This morning, we go at 7 a.m. When I get to the corner of our street, there's a trucker there, and he says good morning to me. So I figure I can tell him what my problem is. And I describe how I can't cross the street safely. And if one of them could help me, or if they could turn off their motors, that would help. Otherwise, I have to go 8 blocks out of my way, and it's 20 below outside. He says, no, we can't do any of that. I turn and walk away. He says, have a nice day, and you have a beautiful dog. I march along. I don't say thank you. March 8th, 2022. Ginger and I have been together 6 months today. What a 6 months it's been for her. Lockdowns, and traveling, Tulia's death, and these truckers. The truckers are gone now. It was really stressful, even on that last weekend when the truckers were all there and the police were there and we were there, but nothing else could get in or out. We couldn't take public transit. There were no delivery services. There were no cabs or other vehicles. I felt like being in a cage with 2 big tigers, but fortunately everything ended peacefully. And now, on our 6-month anniversary, I walk with Ginger and I breathe in the air and listen to the birds and greet people again when they pass me. I'm so happy that everything is peaceful again. April 22nd, 2022. Ginger and I went to the vet today to get Tulia's ashes and her ceramic paw print. We put them into my backpack and head for home. As we walk home, I think about Tulia's walk, her bouncy walk, her wagging tail, her eager surges to show me audible poles or stairs or doors. Ginger does not walk like that. Ginger guides more gently, more carefully. She doesn't have as much of a pull. It's harder sometimes to feel what she's doing. But when you ask her for something, she subtly moves towards it, and then you put out your hand and there it is. As Ginger walks, I think, have I been wanting Ginger to be Tulia all this time? And somehow a part of me feels freer to embrace the dog that is Ginger. I'm glad we're carrying Tulia home along this familiar street. We walk past my work. We walk past places she loved. like that coffee shop with the air traffic controller where in busier times we sat by the window and worked on storytelling or met with friends, walked past her favorite pet store, the grocery store, and finally to our street where after retirement she knew every blade of grass, every pole, every tree on that street. And then up our walk, up our porch steps and into our house. And somehow, as I think about these years, I think these 2 years haven't been easy and they haven't been fun. Somehow we've made it through. And I don't know what's ahead, probably some rocky times still, but somehow carrying Tulia home in my backpack with Ginger gives me some closure and a real sense of peace. There you go.
Oh, yay, Kim! There's a photo of you on our screen with this black Labrador now. Is that Tulia? Or
that's no, Ginger's yellow. So that's
Ginger's yellow. That's right. So this one's Tulia.
That is Tulia. So it's nice to have Tulia here and Ginger here. It's kind of nice.
Right. That's right.
Have them both here.
What a lovely piece of storytelling. I heard it in June, and I loved it just as much now as I did then. And to be honest with you, other than the truckers, I can't really remember the differences because it's been so long since I
just trimmed out little bits. Like I put in some more government like things are happening this day and that day, and I just took some of that out. And I took out there was a piece about the government asking for like saying they might not let people with disabilities get treatment first and this and that, and I kind of took that out because it sort of it went away. It's important stuff, but it went away from the heart of this story. When I listened to it, I'm like, nah, that's all interesting and everything, but it's not the heart of the story. You know what I mean? So
yes.
So that's good that you didn't.
What do they say about artists? That sometimes you have to kill your darlings, right? Like
yeah, and I was like really interesting, and it did shake me up. Like I thought, what do you mean? Like because I have a disability, they were saying, oh, you have to carry around a letter to say what you want, and I'm like, are you serious? Like this is like I feel normal with a disability. Like I don't feel that I should have to, but I think even and also the rheumatoid arthritis bit was further along, and I think the people didn't truly understand. And one friend of mine, one drama friend said, you need to put that early on because then people understand that you are vulnerable and you're trying these things in a in a state of whatever. So I moved that up, and that is better. I think that's way better. So I think it's just tight. It tightened it up a bit. It's pretty similar, but it just it just kind of tightened up. Yes.
It was an interesting ride to revisit some of that, and I'm not a guide dog user, so I love when people tell me stories about guide dogs because it's not my lived experience, and so I really enjoy that. I know that we're probably going to have lots of folks in the community who have thoughts or questions or comments. So, folks, the lines are open, so to speak.
Lines are open.
I like already. It just comes out of my mouth, and they're like hands in the air. So let's go to the first hand, which is Lori. Come on in, Lori.
You're now unmuted.
I think this is a wonderful story.
Has left the meeting.
I'm waiting to get my next dog. So a lot of the stuff that you were saying is kind of makes me think. I know it's going to happen eventually, but it's the wait.
Oh, the wait is the worst, and it's bad in COVID because also the guide dog school's hands were tied because they couldn't train as many dogs either, and like the whole system got out of whack. So it's not anyone's fault. Like in a way, it's not our fault or it's not their fault, but it's a factor that people are waiting years and years now, and they didn't used to. And when sighted people would say, oh, well, you don't really need that, or you don't it just infuriate me, like to say, what are you talking about? Like, yes, I do. Yes, I do.
And you walk with one cane and I walk with two canes.
I actually walk with two canes because I use a support cane. So that was a tricky business.
It's hard because I'm used to having the support cane in my right hand and the dog.
Yeah.
But now it's
same dog. I had to put and the thing that the dog helps me a lot with uneven surfaces. Like I have pain in my joints if I walk on like certain things fast, or, you know, like, so the dog has to slow down for that. And like the cane gets caught and my wrists would get sore. And I would say to
Yes.
my doctors, like, can you please speed it? And even guide dogs, like, can you speed this up? Because this is hard on my body. Like, this is harder on my body than having a dog. And I mean, they tried everything. It's not anyone's fault. It's just,
No.
yeah, it's,
And I have to go do some mobility training first. I'm rusty on my cane skills. I've been using dogs for 22 years.
yeah. Well,
And
I got good. I got good because I had to take Thule. So like, thank her for getting me better with my cane. But yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. No.
Well, thank you for such a wonderful
Well,
story.
thank you. And here's hoping for a soon dog engagement for you.
Thank you very much.
I really hope so.
Oh, thanks, Lori. We got Louise and then we got Pierre. So Louise is next.
Oh, you've had me in tears so many times, Kim.
Right?
Oh, I know. And I know you're
so-
waiting. I know you're waiting, and you've been waiting a long time too.
Well, when you were talking about, in 2021, as a, I had got my acceptance at the end of May of 2021. It's like,
Yeah.
I've had to redo my medical forms. I've had,
Yeah,
but
I
yours
had
at
to
least-
do that. I had to do that too. Yeah.
I mean, I'm going to share a piece with you, and I hope no one minds. Tomorrow, it's an 8th anniversary with me and Kiara. We've been we met 8 years
Aw.
ago tomorrow. I'm a
So
guide dog
great.
8 years. Yeah, so
great. Hugs
not
to
in-
you and the girlie.
she's 9.5 years old, and I can say since we had the health problems at the beginning of the pandemic with our really sick dog. And I know
Yeah.
what you went through, and I know some of that. And I mean, luckily she's able to work, and I'm going to share with you, she's going to get to be in my son's wedding in December.
Oh, so beautiful. That's
Yes, I
so
will not-
beautiful.
Yep, in December. So it's a
Beautiful,
very
beautiful.
small, she's very small wedding, but it's the point is it's, you brought me thinking, and and I was thinking when you were talking about Ginger, and I'll say it this way. When you were talking about Ginger and the difference between her and Tulia, like what you were like thinking, well, that's not going to work for me. I'm thinking, Kim, you'd be amazed. The change might be what you need.
Oh, yeah. And you know what? Ginger is, I just love her so much, but she also was not a cuddler. She's a very, she needs her space. She's pretty introverted. And like, it took 6 months before she sort of rolled on her back and let me pat her. And I've never had one like that, but she is just the most amazing. Like, I just really, really love her a lot. It took a bit of time for that. I always liked her, but it took a bit of time, but she's solid. Like, she could have retired because of the trucks. I mean, that was a terrible, and I was called to school and say, like, this is awful. She's going by these air brakes and these air horns and and she just pranced along like do, like whatever,
But
Can
you imagine can you imagine Tulia doing that? Most likely wouldn't have.
I don't know. She was pretty, I don't know. I'm not sure. You don't really know with any dog. Not as an older dog. No, she wouldn't have liked it, but as a younger dog, maybe. But
Yeah.
Ginger, no, she was, but the one thing, I guess one of the things that really was hard, one of the hardest things was making Tulia like go into the vet by herself. And I just, like, that just was going to finish
I think
me.
that's
Like,
I
it's
said-
like when I said, like, don't leave her alone, and they were promising me no. And I just, like, I can't, like, she's going to be in a room by herself without me. And she's like, she's just so sick. And like, that's the hard things. And the vets would find it hard too. Like, even my vet, the next week I went back, I had to go back to give Ginger her health check. And I didn't put this in, although I sort of wanted to. So the same friend brought me to the vet, and the truckers were there. So we couldn't get through very easily. And they made a cardboard sign like guide dog needing to go to the vet. And so we held it up in the window, and we got to the vet, and we went inside, and I asked if my friend could come in with me because I didn't want to go in alone. So she did. And then we went inside, and the vet said, "Oh, don't come in that room." And I said, "Oh, why not?" And she said, "Well, Tulia was in there. That's where Tulia was." And I said, "Well, I didn't know that." And she said, "Well, I would know." So she took me in a different exam room, which was, really sweet of her to do. But, she even said it's hard. It's hard to come in like to be with the animals without the people.
Yeah.
And like I mean, I understand why they had to do it, but it's like people they lost so much. And you know, when you think about long-term care and people in there that were, you know, alone, and people that were without or going to the hospital, like I had family members went to the hospital during COVID that you couldn't go with them. No one could go with them. And, you know, it's just, there was a lot of loss. And I guess the Guy Doug story, like, I don't know. I said, why is it always about the dogs? I don't know. But it sort of is the story of like what you were losing and what you were gaining and what you were doing and like this roller coaster stuff, right? Like this 4 months. And we thought, oh, 4 months, I can handle that. You know, 4 months and like, no,
no. But I actually got to tell you something. And I mean, this is something I don't share with many people. And it's, anybody can hear it now. We were at the point where we didn't know what next steps for Vicky are. So they were sending her back for an ultrasound, and they were sending her out to the same place Hawk had died just before the pandemic. Yeah. And I'm like, I was like, and no one could come with me. I was like, this is in 2021. I'm like, this is in, you know, this is talking in February of 2021. So March, you know, there was lockdown coming again. And I'm like, I can't do this mentally. I said in my vet's office, can't the ultrasound be done in? They said, we only have it 1 day a month. I said, I'll wait.
Yeah.
I mean, but, and but by the time she got the ultrasound, she was doing better because we'd done a food switch in the process of all that. And the food switch was a miracle for it all.
That's good. That's good.
But what I'm saying is I can imagine walking back into that vet's office after, because, and you know, I almost ended up having to walk back into the place where, you know.
Yeah. Well, when I went to get Thule's ashes, the receptionist there said, oh, I'm sorry to let her go. She's really been helping us here. Because Thule used to love the vet so much. And I said, oh, is she the greeter now here? Oh, yeah, like she's really helping us. So it was kind of cool. Like it was kind of good that they were talking about her, like, and say, bye, Thulia, you know, and I'm sort of glad. I was going to get a friend to come with me. And I just really felt that I had to do it by myself. And I'm really glad that I walked home with her. I just, like, it just was nice. It was a real like nice thing to do. So yeah, but it was I mean, everyone did the best they could with everything, and that just hopefully, like, this illustrates that we all were in a hard
and you know what, when you're talking about touching things, I actually will come back and say, when you were talking about that, I'm like, you know what, sometimes I didn't listen to them.
But you know what, though, like when I looked back at that stuff, like that is not the case now, right? Like people know now that you don't wipe your groceries, and like I didn't get into all of that, but
neither did
the stuff that they said at the beginning, and granted they didn't know, so it's but like don't touch anything and wear the cloth mask, but now they say like the cloth masks don't do anything, and you have to wear the duck faces or whatever you call those things at N95, but like we didn't know, nobody did, but it's funny to look back, like it's so interesting. And the really interesting thing that floored me was to look back, like I said, June 20th 100,000 cases, October 20th 200, November 20th 300,000. So like that floored me. Like I was like, whoa, like this jumped in a month, like the same as it was. Like, you know, and when you read those numbers, it freaks, like it makes you understand it. Like it's like, I mean, it was sort of depressing going back and reading the news stories, but it was kind of like, oh yeah, they said this, and they said the COVID alert app was really good. And then as it turned out, you know, it wasn't necessarily like, you know, the best, but again, it's just fascinating. Like I found it fascinating to see the trajectory from the future.
This is going to be a thing that's studied. You
know,
drawn out, right? So,
but you know, but you know, I touch my face all the time. I'm thinking, Kim, I just kept doing it.
Well, so did I. No, I did. But when I heard it, I had this pause of like, okay, what if I had to do this? What would I do? Okay, like what am I gonna do? And then it's like, well, no, I can't do that. Like, forget it.
Actually, I suspect we have stronger immune systems because we did touch our face with germs once.
Perhaps that is the case, because I touch wood have not yet gotten
neither have
COVID.
I.
And I know,
don't put it out in the universe.
No, I know.
No.
99% of the people I know have had it. So
Just a
Yeah,
matter of time now.
Yeah,
But I think
so.
it's the fact that we touched things and we were willing to do things that maybe others weren't. Maybe we got a better immune system against it.
Perhaps.
Well, that's it. But I
Mhm.
am immune suppressed, so like I don't,
Yeah.
in a way, I don't.
Want
But
it.
like, yeah.
Yeah.
Anyway,
Well,
But
thanks.
no, but thank you.
Thanks, Louise, for
Thanks,
sharing your
Louise.
stories.
Yeah, thank you.
And happy anniversary tomorrow.
Anniversary, dog anniversary.
We've got Pierre up, and then we've got Megan next. So Pierre, the floor is yours.
Hello.
Hello.
Yeah.
Congratulations for 100 presentations. It's awesome, but I find it an amazing coincidence that Kim would be invited for her storytelling at your 100th presentation, because that's about the score that I would give her for her storytelling.
Oh,
So,
yeah. And
Yeah.
he's from Ottawa.
Yeah,
He
nothing's
stayed
a
up really
coincidence
late.
here. Nothing's
I'm
a coincidence
completely
here, Pierre.
impartial, Yes.
Oh,
Yeah,
thank you.
but,
Thank you.
I find it so emotional when you talk of Tulia and Ginger and all the story, everything that relates to the dogs. Although I find that when you speak about, like walking into the coffee shop, or it's like if you were saying my story. It's
Yeah.
like the same experience that I am living. The lineups, or the X on the floor, or it's like having very little vision. This is a very complicated situation for me, and
But
for you.
Pierre, like I did want to get that across, because it seemed like everything that they did in haste posed a different challenge than we'd ever had before. Like the plexiglass, like where the heck are these people? Like, I don't know. The X's, the one-way aisles. So I didn't mention this, in the one-way aisles, the
Not being able to go out with more than one person in your household.
yeah. Or not being able, like I went to a doctor's appointment. It was like one person per elevator, like in the medical building. And it's like, I got in there and I realized there's no braille or large print on the buttons. And I didn't know how to get to the floor, right? So someone opened the door and said, "Oh, you're in here." I said, "Well, get in here or press the button for me, because I don't know." And it's just sort of thing after thing got sort of thrust on us, even on top of the fact that we were dealing with what the rest of the world were dealing with, was the news and the COVID like stories.
Yeah.
But we kept coming across these things that were hard. And and so I think I wanted people to know this, and I want sort of public health, or people to, to understand that this posed a lot of challenges for people that were already challenged in the way that everyone was challenged. Like, all of this stuff, the COVID testing, that was a huge deal. Like, how am I supposed to do it? How am I supposed to get there? And Pierre, you probably remember that we had many conversations in GTT Ottawa about what are we supposed to do? Like, how are we supposed to get, and in the end, Ottawa Public Health had a system where if you had a disability and your doctor told them that, they would send someone to your house to do it. And
even right now though, like, so I share a house with my mother. We're on different levels. I have a basement, she has the upstairs. If I get sick and I want to test, I actually have to have her do that. Which means I'm putting her at risk for something that I could potentially have.
Well, that's it. Like,
because the test isn't accessible either. Yeah.
Because I did storytelling recently at a long-term care, and that was the first time they'd had someone in, and they wanted me to test 5 times before I went in.
Yeah.
So I did, but I couldn't do them myself. Like, I could do the swab up my nose, but I couldn't put the 3 drops of liquid and the thing. No. So Richard did that, and I mean, I wasn't sick, but I thought, like, this is still not great. This is still not at the point where it should be, where you can do it all by yourself. So you
could unnecessarily be putting other people at risk.
Sure. And people begin putting you at risk by grabbing the COVID arm. Like, it's like, I don't want to hold people's COVID arm. I don't know. I don't know. Like, no, thanks, Pierre. It's always great to have you. Pierre's a really good musician too.
Oh,
yeah,
really?
Oh, good player of piano and organ, I think.
Hamsters
Yes.
running fast in my brain.
Mhm.
And I have an imitation of truck horns that I
Oh,
can
don't.
do.
Oh,
Yes,
no.
I'm like.
You know what? I still get freaked out when I hear those big horns. Like even 6 months later, I get freaked out.
Yes.
No, and big air brakes. Like sometimes I'm like,
Ugh.
oh my God. I jumped a couple weeks ago and this guy in a truck said, I'm not a trucker like that. Like, I'm sure he sees that all the time, like this little startle motion, yeah.
What a thing you lived through.
That was a thing.
Both of you with the truckers. Yeah.
Well, that
Absolutely.
was
Yeah.
a thing for sure.
Yes. Thank you,
Oh,
Kim.
Thanks, Pierre.
thanks, Pierre. Okay, we've got Megan, and then we've got Marianne, and then we have Natasha. Go ahead, Megan.
Man, that was amazing. Like when you were talking about the truckers, it kind of reminded me of a cross-country checkup because one girl who was also blind, who was living, I think it was in Ottawa and Montreal. She's living in an apartment and she was out there and someone was yelling at her to take off her mask as well. Like,
yeah, that's
give
our
us a
friend. We
story.
know her. She lives about a block from me. About a block.
I'm like, yeah, I
Yeah.
heard and I thought, oh
Yeah,
my
she
gosh, why do
lives-
people do that to her?
No, it was scary. I mean, but
Okay.
it was scary, but on the other hand, I was so mad at that point. Like, it's like, listen, guys, like, this is not your city. Like, get the heck, like, because I go for walks and people say, aren't you scared? And I'm like, well, no, actually, because I'm just fired up about it. Like, it's like, I don't care, just get away from my city, I don't know.
Yeah.
Now I worried a little bit that I might have could have some anti-vaxxer, anti people that would complain about the show, but it's as I saw it and as I experienced it. So I don't care. I like, they can say what they say. I
You
know
get
that.
to own your truth.
Well, I know it happened. Like,
Yeah.
I know that guy said, no, we can't help you. Like, no, we can't help you. He did. He said it. And then he said, have a nice day. Like, you have a nice dog. And I'm like, what the hell, mister? Like, really? Like, I'm sorry. Like, don't say that to me. And I was just marching up. And then I heard him say to his friend, like, I don't know why these people hate us so much. And I'm thinking, if you don't understand this, like, I don't know what hope there is.
Thank
Like,
you.
Yeah.
Thanks,
Weird.
Megan.
Thanks,
You're
Megan.
welcome.
Okay, Marianne is next, and then Natasha.
Hi, Kim. Thank you
Hello.
so much for a brilliant performance
Oh, you're
and
welcome.
such wonderful prose.
Aw.
And I have to say, as a fellow performer, I don't know how long you rehearsed the bits about Tulia dying before you could actually read that, or I don't know if you were reading or
No,
if this is
not
all,
reading.
I figured it's all memorized.
Yeah.
Even though the dates got a little wonky there,
Yeah,
but
sorry.
we know the journey, it's all
The
good.
dates.
But the fact that you could get through that without crying means you rehearsed the hell out of that piece.
Well, and that's the tricky thing with these type of shows. And there are bits in my other shows where dogs die too, when my first dog died, and where and I tell people, if I'm teaching workshops, I say, you cannot do this as a performance until you can get through it, because the audience will, like, you have to be at this place. And so when it happened, and one of the directors was saying, are you going to put in about the truckers? And at first I said no, because then I'll have to talk about Tulia, and I don't think I can do it. And then I thought, no, I mean, she started this journey. Like, I think we have to, I'm going to try, I'm going to see. And you're right. You have to just do it over and over and over. I mean, till you're not crying, like, you're not crying so much that the audience will want to take care of you and like get out of the performance. You could be emotional if you want, but you can't, like, it has to be, yes. And there were moments when I would practice it and I would just, like, it would be emotional and I would have to say, oh, I got to wait on that a little bit. And it's emotional hearing it, actually. Like, when I listened to the recording, then I would bawl and bawl. Like, I'm like, oh God, but when I was doing it, I can kind of hold that off. Yeah.
But it absolutely shows. And as somebody who's
thank
had to
you.
do speeches about sad things in the past and so on, you really, it's a mark of a great performance to be able to do that. And even though your
Yeah.
audience is all crying, you're just telling the story.
Yeah.
And so
Yeah.
kudos for what it takes
Well,
to make
thank
that
you.
happen.
And I hope you understood
And
the
for those of us who are,
Canadian perspective. Yeah, did you understand?
well, I was going to ask, like, what was the deal with the truckers? Because we didn't have that.
No. So the truckers, and I don't totally understand this either to this day, but the truckers got in a convoy and drove to Ottawa, which is our capital. So it's like the equivalent of Washington, D.C., to protest mask mandates, vaccine mandates, all kind of stuff. And the city or the police let them in because they thought they were only going to stay for a weekend with these big rigs, and they parked them all along our downtown streets, and they just had a wild and crazy time. Like they set fires to, like there were fires set in apartment buildings. I mean, there were some that were peaceful and fine, and they were just like doing fireworks, but it was loud all the time. It was, and I don't truly know why they did it totally, like, because there were all different factions that sort of came together, and some group would say one thing and some group would say something, and like maybe Amy or maybe others know better than I, but I don't know.
I can't remember if it started with the truckers being like the core truckers being
Yeah.
unhappy that they couldn't like cross into other provinces or into other countries, jeopardizing their
into
jobs.
the US, but it was the US law that was,
yeah,
you know, and it was just, but then other groups sort of joined it.
Joined in, yeah.
And there was anti-racist, like there was all kinds of stuff. And so we became sort of a bit the laughing stock for a while, I think, of, or even like the Americans, sort of the far right Americans said, oh, Canada, they're so great, you know, because there was all this, but it was just the police, and there's an inquiry on right now, Marianne, into it. So there's people speaking about what happened, and I think they're really looking into how did this get to the point where, because eventually they did clear out the trucks, and then they cleared out the people, but they shouldn't have ever let the trucks get so entrenched here, because they, at one point they said they're going to stay till the summer, and then they tried to come back Canada Day and other holidays, and they really cracked down on, and actually Wellington Street, which is right in front of our parliament, is not open yet, like it may never open again, like open to cars, because of that. So, but we felt as residents that we were just held hostage for all this sort of stuff, and it was like loud all the time, and it was just ridiculous. Like it was just it was ridiculous. And it's funny because early in COVID, you know, Canadians were saying, oh, those Americans, they're terrible, like they can't deal with COVID and we're so good. But then it was like this flip where this trucker thing was like so bad. So I guess you can never be smug, and you can never I don't know, you can, so
only
I'm sorry that didn't totally answer your question, because I don't totally understand.
It
the
did
question
in the way that I needed it, at least.
Yeah.
I mean, I figured out, like, okay, this had to be something really weird and awful. And I mean, if it means anything to you, I still jump at air horns and air brakes. And we have buses out here that stop, and so often the drivers will just immediately put down the kneelers. And it's just this blast of sound because they have to put on these major brakes and the compression to put the buses down. And every time that happens, I'm like, I need to recover before I can jump on the bus.
Because
the
kneelers, they
blast
can be
of
loud,
sound that you want to jump away from. So I completely understand why you would still be flinching at those noises, because they are obnoxious, especially for us who cherish what our hearing gives to us, and having something completely wipe it out, even if momentarily, it's very
it's
probably
it's
disorienting.
much more
totally disorienting.
It's much more
totally
disorienting for us than it is for the average
Sightly
guy who just doesn't care.
You know, and there were people, I mean, there were still beautiful people. I mean, there were people contacting me every day and saying, did I need to come out? You know, did I want to come out of the core, like the downtown core, and stay with them? But there was a part of me that's like, no, I don't want to leave my house. Like, no, I don't, you know what I mean? Like, I shouldn't have to do that.
Yeah.
And I didn't, but I didn't like not feeling safe, because I always feel pretty safe where I live. And I just really didn't like that feeling of like, I don't feel safe. But my neighbors, like a couple of my neighbors came to the door and said, do you need anything? If you need anything, if you want me to walk with you anywhere, like if you know what I mean? Like these big guys that live in my, these big guys. And they said, and I said, no, I got my ginger. I'm okay with my ginger. But yeah, like,
Well,
yeah.
Give her some love and pets for
Oh,
all of
she's a-
us who
she's
are
a good
appreciating
girly.
her today.
Yeah, she's a nice girly. Thank you.
Thanks, Marianne. Natasha, and then we have iPhone, which I'm going to assume is Nancy, but we'll go with Natasha first.
Hi, Kim. First of all, I just want to say thank you so much for sharing something so beautifully intimate and engaging and relational with us. I think there's something so special about memoir. I live for that style of storytelling. I grew up reading Dear Canada Diaries, and it reminds me so much of that because it's such a share of like these difficult times with this personal perspective. And in my line of work, we explore narrative and the way people tell their stories and engage with the world. So I just think it's such a beautiful way of sharing our personal experiences and relating to each other. So just thank you so much for that.
Thank you. Thank you. I think in a way, as I've reflected on doing it that way, it almost feels like because we were alone so much during COVID, like, we were with people on Zoom or whatever, but you're kind of isolated. Maybe that's why it sort of resonated to do that. I don't know for sure, but it was like when I did that, when I was writing like that, it just came together faster. So I don't know if that's the reason. Like, I don't know, but I sort of speculate. So, yeah, but I forgot about those Dear Canada. Those were very cool. Those Dear Canada.
Just found a lot of 13 of them on eBay and ordered them for $100. So I'm very excited to reread them all. They're such a special set. But yeah, again, thank you so much because we were so separate for such that chunk of time. So when like to have these stories kind of brings us together, like retrospectively. So
yeah, because in a way we all had struggles during that time. So whatever it was, like, like it wasn't getting a guide dog for like sighted people, but there would be other things that people would say, oh, geez, like I really was struggling with, taking care of this person or trying to get a job or getting laid off from a job or working in healthcare and trying to get, we faced adversity, we faced it in different ways. So it's relatable in that way, in a way, like it's different, but it's relatable. And I wonder if some people at the beginning, when I was hearing 3 months, the borders closed for 1 month, I'm going to get a dog in 4 months. I sort of wonder if some of the public health people knew this is not going to be a short haul, but they're not telling you.
They're not telling us?
Like at the begining, because you just lose your mind. Like you just got, I can't wait till 1 year. You know what I mean? So it's almost like they're saying, oh yeah, it's going to be like a few weeks. I mean, I don't know how much they knew, but I would think that some people would have guessed that this is not an easy.
No scientists have studied these things because they've studied like 1918. It was the Spanish flu, like
So they might say that, like,
and while this hasn't happened in Canada a lot, and well, I mean globally, like for us in Canada, but like this kind of stuff has happened in Africa a lot.
Oh, absolutely, and worse. So, like, I mean, worse in terms of deadly. Like, I don't mean COVID
Ebola
wasn't deadly,
and all
but
sorts
Ebola
of
and weird, and it's just to think like a little tiny bug though totally disrupted like air travel. You know how we think we're so smug and we have technology and we have air travel and everything was just totally messed up by that little creature.
Microscopic,
is pretty wild.
Okay, we've got I think it's Nancy. So let's see if Nancy unmutes. Otherwise, there's somebody on an iPhone with a hand up.
Yeah, aloha.
It is Nancy. It is Nancy from Hawaii. And then
Nancy from Hawaii. Nice.
Well, I'm just visiting for a month. What a
Oh,
wonderful story. Oh my God. Listening to you, Ginger, Kim, you what awesome. The thing is when you brought the going in the room in the hospital for your vet, I remember taking Kevin's both dog and we had to put him to sleep. It was so sad because we had to wear a mask. I wanted to give the dog a hug and kiss, and we had to wear it the whole time. And then having to say goodbye to the dog, I just wanted to, just let him see me before, like it was hard because and I was
yeah.
crying and the mask wasn't helping me. And I
I
wanted to
know
pray.
your tears are like pooling
It's
up
like,
underneath your mask and you're
and it
like,
was so sad, and
and
it
the
was like
vet was hugging me, but she's hugging me kind of with one arm because we're not really sure what to
The
do,
distance hug? Yeah.
It was like, but
yeah,
she was like, she had her arm around me, but it was like one. And then the funny thing, well, it's not funny, but it sort of was. So my vet had broken her arm, so she couldn't actually do the euthanasia. So she told me,
oh,
she goes, I can be with you, but I have to get someone to press the needle because like I broke my arm, so I can't. So anyway,
oh,
so she got a vet tech to come, and it was a bizarre day. Like it was bizarre in the whole sense of the
it's
word, like
yeah.
sat with me
It,
instead.
it's just touching. And when the truckers, I'm amazed that Junior wasn't like. I was talking to my friend on phone, and it was honking, honking. All I
Yeah.
hear, I can't
Oh
hear
no,
you,
Ginger,
and
like
it's
as
awful.
gentle and as sweet as she is, it's like she has a steel in her, like she just nothing flaps her, she's just an unflappable. And I was
Oh,
like, I hope you're not storing it up. I hope you like how we all anthropomorphize, what's that word?
what?
Anthropomorphize.
Well,
Amorphize
you had to
dogs.
walk out of your eight. You had to walk another way just to keep away from all that noise, the
Yeah.
truckers too,
Yeah, we had to
and that's
walk all the
amazing.
way, and but I didn't mind because I would get such adrenaline to say like to heck with you,
Yeah,
buddies,
and
like
then
go anyway. But no, she's an interesting one, and I think, are you storing it up, and are you gonna burn out, have an early retirement? But like dogs are not like what I mean. I don't know. She's
well, no, Kim, and you did a wonderful job by putting
oh,
everything in a
thank you.
date.
I got
Having dated, you dated everything, and that's so
Yeah, I
sweet.
got a bit wandering around the dates a little, but other than that,
No,
sorry
keep
about
up
that.
the
But
good work.
thank you, and enjoy Hawaii.
Yeah, thank you. Aloha to everyone.
Yeah.
Thanks, Nancy. Rita's up.
Okay. Okay, Kim, I want to say this is wonderful as usual. I loved your previous story as well. And so I was really looking forward to tonight.
Oh, thank
And
you.
this is a really moving story. And, like your journal of going through the whole COVID thing was just amazing. Um,
Thank you.
so, so this is a general comment. I also, when you were talking about when you had to put Tulia down, and it reminded me of when I had to put down my first guide dog. That was a long time ago, but it just my other dogs I've retired. I haven't, I didn't
Oh, you haven't
keep them
kept
until the
them,
end.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah. So, but that was just amazing, and it really reminded me, not quite the same because we didn't
Oh,
have to go through the COVID thing,
yeah.
but it's just so painful. And
Oh, I know it is,
yeah.
and I mean, she really got me through COVID. Like that was the other thing is she really
Mhm.
got me through COVID, right till Ginger came. Well, even after
Right.
that, but like so she and I'm actually glad she died just before the truckers came because I think as she was older, she was 13, so she didn't like it anymore, and I think she would have hated that stuff. Like
Yeah.
the way it's
Right.
kind of good.
Right.
I mean, it's not good, but like if it was gonna
Yeah.
happen, it's
No, but
gonna
at least,
happen
yeah, at least it
the
worked
way
out
it did.
okay for her
Maybe
in
she
that
knew.
sense. Yeah.
Maybe she knew something.
Yeah.
She was a smart girly,
Well,
but the thing that also amazed me was how Ginger was so kind and so gentle with her and just so like understanding of that whole thing. Like that day
mhm,
she would just go away and leave us to ourselves so I had time, and then she would come
mhm.
back and just lean on you and check in, and it was just like, to me, that almost makes me cry now, like thinking of it, because it was just so sweet,
Yeah.
Mhm.
like that they understand in such a deep way what the other animal is going, like, you know what I mean, what the other animal needs or is having. And she just licked Tulia's face, like just really gentle, and like just not trying to grab her or play with her like before, like she'd try to be a bit rough and try to play, you know, but she wasn't. And like that's the beautiful kind of illustrations of animals and their and I wanted the whole show to be a mix of like the bad stuff, but also that people are good. Like people are good and people are trying to, you know, help, right? And people are
Yeah.
like
There's a
that
nice
whole
balance
mix.
of that. Yeah.
And humor too, because like it, you know, humorous things about, you know, about stuff and like to the whole mix, because it can't all be bad. And we did see a lot of good come out of Quote. Like if we think of all the fundraisers and the people doing stuff for people and, you know, cheering people and, you know, that
The
doctor,
accessibility that came out of it even.
yeah, the Zoom stuff and oh yeah, you can work from home, whereas for years people would say no one can work from home. And you know, like we got things from it that I hope we learned from. And you know, that Captain Tom or whatever walking in his garden, and like I love to hear all those stories too about the really great was that his name, Tom, that captain guy that walked?
It was the
He was like
senior, right?
100. Yeah, that it was like 100 years old and he walked like, and he raised all this money. And so it's like I wanted it to be a mix. Like I really wanted the mix, and I wanted to make sure that, you know, there was that all of it. But yeah, but thank you, Rita. Thank you
Yeah,
so
that was great. Thank you.
much.
Oh, friends, we've come to the end of our time together. But before we say goodbye to Kim, because it's probably pretty close to tomorrow for you, right?
I would say I haven't looked at the time, but yeah.
Yeah, you're about 13 minutes from tomorrow.
Oh, really? Okay.
We got a couple of prize draws to do tonight. So we're going to give away 2 prizes tonight. So let's bring Donna into the space, as we always do. And Donna's got all the names of folks in some kind of magical container. What's the container?
I do. But, well, it's a bag. It's a bag. It's nothing special. But I have a question before we continue. I have 2 Kathys. I know I have a Kathy Stuckenberg, but I also have a Kathy iPhone. Would Kathy iPhone like to unmute and identify themselves?
Also equally possible and more likely there's a third or fourth or fifth person involved.
Perhaps not. Okay, we'll leave that. We have Kim, our wonderful guest, but we also have a second Kim, Kim iPad. Would Kim iPad like to unmute and identify themselves? Okay, well, we'll continue.
Oh,
Great.
Someone said hi. I don't know who that was. Someone say hi?
Didn't hear that.
Oh, I don't know.
No.
Maybe not.
Okay. All right. So Kim,
yes,
our guest Kim, it's all up to you. I've got the names in here and I am shaking them up, and whenever you are ready, shout.
Oh, so I say something? Okay.
You just throw out a word.
Tulia.
And it's Mary Himmelwaite.
Mary, congratulations, Mary.
And Amy, are we doing a second one?
We're doing a second one.
Yeah,
we're doing a second one because it's 100 and it's a party.
Okay. Are you doing it now?
I am shaken.
Okay.
Ginger.
Ginger got up.
And it's
sorry, Ginger. Oh my God.
It's Marie Guthrie has the second prize.
Awesome.
And Mary unmuted themselves. Did you have something to say, Mary?
Yes, I would like to pass my gift to somebody else because really everybody participated and I was just a passive listener. And you know, I've had other times when I was picked and I appreciated it. Can I pass it on to somebody else?
You may pass it. There is no guilt to be a passive listener. I am also a passive listener on Zoom all the time, but
yes, I would really like
we can pass it on, no problem.
Please do.
All right.
Okay. Do another one?
One more name.
Oh, what am I going to say this time? 100.
100.
Hi,
and
Kim,
it's Joe Bruno.
Joe Bruno.
Oh, hello. Hi. Hi, everyone.
Hi.
Can you hear
we
me?
can hear you. Yeah. And we hear a dog.
Yeah, whose dog is
No,
it?
that's not mine, no.
It's Kim iPad. I finally got this unmuted.
Oh, wonderful. What Kim iPad has a last name? Just so we
Horseman.
Horseman. All right.
And that was Lois. Lois is saying hi. Josie, Kim and Josie Horseman.
Oh, yeah, cool.
Yeah, we brought it in on his because he's got a bigger screen. We couldn't get you in on my computer.
We were so on to see this production today.
Oh,
It was so
thank you,
so beautiful. We just loved it.
you.
Oh,
Thank you, thank you.
Yeah, even Lois loved it.
My guide dog.
Yeah.
Okay,
she
that makes
loved it.
sense.
Well, she better love it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Awesome. Well, thanks for identifying yourselves. I know it's kind of hard when you're like, wait, how do I unmute? Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. But,
It's the first time we do it on. It's
First
a
time
new
I've done it
iPad.
on my on this new iPad. So yeah.
Awesome. Well, we've had a fun night in the space, friends. Thank you for joining us for our 100th, Kim.
Well, thank you, and happy 100th.
Happy 100th. Yeah, next.
Excellent. It's Faye. Excellent.
Oh, thank you, Faye. Thank
I
you.
was crying.
Oh, Faye. Sorry to make you cry.
Awesome.
Kim, you may want to
Kim.
check out
Now
if you like another interesting and you like the mix of the good and stuff as part of COVID. There was a podcast out for a while that was a 5-day-a-week podcast called The Daily Smile. That was just all kinds of interesting stories about kind of good things, different kinds of things that happened during COVID. That was just a delightful piece of work. Yeah,
Thank you.
you might very much enjoy that.
I will enjoy that. I'm a bit of a podcast addict, so.
Well, there you go.
There you
Kim, Kim,
Yes?
thanks for making me smile and cry all in one night.
Oh, all in one night. Well, that's
Thank
two for
you.
the price of one there.
You know what? Because it is it's our lives. It is, you know, you really brought it from a different, you brought it in a way that, you know,
Thank you.
and Ontario's been different than BC. So if I sat down and wrote it from my side, I would say there'd be different things.
Well,
Yes, we didn't have the
everyone would have different things.
Yeah, but the other thing I was going to say is I do understand they were closing, the truckers had closed the borders where where the borders were, they were going across the borders too.
Yep, they were in Alberta and in Windsor, and they were over there.
Yeah,
too.
that was, I think, the worst part. We couldn't get supplies up to Canada.
No, that was bad. I mean,
Kim, can't wait to hear another story.
Oh, thanks. Well, I'll have to work on something else.
The next story in the hopper, right?
And I'm just not thinking about that quite yet, but yes, I will work on something else.
Thank you for a wonderful story tonight.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
VocalEye, vocaleye.ca. Special thanks to our funders, the Canada Council for the Arts, the British Columbia Arts Council, the Province of British Columbia, and the City of Vancouver.